Hey, what's going on everyone? Rocky here with 75 South Gardening. In today's video, I'll be giving you guys a tour of my spring garden. So I'm going to start with the first raised bed, then I'll work my way around the whole garden. So down here, these are the stringless green beans that I planted, and I thought these were the bush variety that I bought last year, but as you can see, these are pole beans. So I will be building something for them to climb up on. And in the back row, I have my peppers. Not sure which colors or varieties. These come from seeds that I harvested from last year's plants. And in the center, I have marigolds. There's also garlic growing in the center of each cinder block. Now garlic usually takes 200 days, but I have a few here that are ready to be harvested, and they're ready to harvest when the bottom leaves have turned brown, and as you can see, they've all pretty much fallen over. So they're probably not going to get much bigger than what you see here. Now this doesn't go for all of them, because I still have garlic plants that are nice and green and still growing. And over here in this raised bed, these are all Super Sweet 100 cherry tomato plants, except for the 3 in the back. These are the Cherokee purples you guys seen me transplant in the last video. Now when growing cherry tomatoes, you want to grow them a little different. You don't have to remove all of the suckers. Now for my new gardeners, suckers are simply the plant stem growing in between the fan leaf here and the main stem. Now if this was a regular tomato plant, what I would do is clip it off, like the one that you see here. So what I'm going to do is remove this sucker. Now what that does is stops all of the energy going into producing this sucker, and allows the plant's energy to produce more flowers. Now your flower set will always grow off of the main stem, so don't worry about the suckers. Now over here with the cherries, what I like to do is remove everything that's growing at the bottom. That way I can get more airflow through here, which will reduce the amount of pest pressure, and I'll also be able to find those hornworms around the time of year they come. Now when watering, you won't have to worry about your leaves being wet at the bottom of your plant. That could also create a breeding ground for pests, and it should look something like this when you're finished. Now I also cut the big sucker off the bottom, but I could take this and plant it somewhere else and start a whole new plant. So I'm going to do the same thing with the one you see here. Here's another long sucker, and this can be a new plant. So remove all of the lower growth. And what I like to do is have at least 4 branches off every plant. So here's 1, 2, 3, and I'll let this one right here grow, and that's it. And you also want to make sure that you have something for it to climb on. And these tomato clips hook right onto the twine, just like that. And this will hold the plant in place and keep it from breaking due to high winds. Now with the Cherokee purples, I'm trying something different this year. I pruned these early, and they're all in the shape of a Y. And what I want to see is, will this improve production? So what I might do is let this one grow as 3 stems and the others grow as a Y. But I'll be removing all suckers. Now another tip when pruning is to remove any leaves like the one you see here that may be covering the top of another branch. That way they all receive equal sunlight. And when removing suckers, make sure that you are cutting them right here. If you just snip this off really quick, it could grow right back, but if you cut it, it'll never grow back. Now once my plants reach about 4 feet tall, instead of removing the whole leaf, what I like to do is cut them after the second set of small leaves. So I'll cut it right about here. And what will happen is it will produce a set of flowers at the end of this stem. Now the only thing I have left to do is to tie up the new branches to the twine and hook them up to the trellis. And what I'm using is cup hooks. And down here, this is rosemary. And I also have a lemon balm that has spread all over my yard. So I'll be chopping this today along with a few other things. So I have my Cherokee purples, marigolds, and these are garlic that are almost ready. And down here I had another super sweet 100, but it didn't make it, so I replaced it with a pepper plant. And over here on the end, these are basil. I also have 6 new super sweet 100s. And all I have to do is sit these in water for a week, or you could plant these directly into the ground. Now over here in this raised bed, these are all peppers. They have basil in the center. There's also more of the stringless green beans and the marigolds. Now the marigolds give off a scent that keep the pest away. And anyone that has grown peppers know that aphids love peppers. And as you can see, my leaves are clean, soil is dry, it hasn't been sprayed with anything. Just want to make sure that you have something in your beds at all times to deter pests, and that is another onion. They also don't like the smell of the onion. Now the plants that you see here also weren't pruned, just to show you all how they grow without pruning versus pruning. As you can see here, there's 3 different branches, and this plant has never been cut in the center. Same thing here, we have 2, and it's never been cut. Versus all of my plants here that were pruned earlier in the season. And as you can see, they all have a scar in the center where I cut them in 2 to 3 branches. Now this is how I like to grow them, in the shape of a Y. For me, it produces better versus growing them as a single stem. But all varieties are different. All peppers don't grow the same. So experiment on your yard and see what works best for you. Now another tip with the peppers is you want to pay close attention to your flowers. Once they flop over like that, what you want to do is pop it like that. That's it. Because if you let it flower, it will stop vertical growth and it will focus on producing that pepper if it's pollinated. Now what you don't want to do is break the flower off while it's that small, because what could happen is you could break the tiny branch beside it. I'll also be harvesting most of the snap peas, and you want to harvest them when they fill in completely like this. you don't want to harvest them while they look like this. These aren't ready yet. You have to wait until they fill up. And I have more over here with the potatoes. Now to harvest these, you could simply grab it like this and pull it like that. But if you're heavy-handed, you might want to get your pruners and make sure you just cut right there.
What is that?
Peas. You want to eat it? So these are the peas that I've harvested so far. These are also 2 different varieties. And down here I have basil growing along with stringless green beans in a 20-gallon grow bag. And I also have the oregano growing in my 20-gallon grow bags that were growing right here in the center of these 2 cinder blocks last year. And look at the difference in the size of the plant. Now when growing oregano, you want to harvest right before it flowers. And that's usually anywhere from 15 to 22 inches tall. And they're right at about 2 feet now. So what I'll do is I'll harvest these early in the morning because that's when they have more of the essential oils. Right now it's very hot out and the leaves are really dry, so I'm not going to bother it. And down here I have more stringless green beans that you all seen me plant in the last video, and they're doing pretty good, and they should start producing towards the middle of June. And right here, these are the transplanted carrots. Now some of these are a mixed colorful variety, and some of them are the longer carrots. And if I'm not mistaken, it should be the long imperator. And I have more carrots over there. Now over here we have potatoes. Now these are the ones you guys see me plant in the March video, and the squirrels have been over here digging and destroying all of my plants. So there might not be any big potatoes in this pile, but it's big ones for sure in the containers and this small bed that I have here. Now I had to cover some up the other day so they won't turn green, also so the squirrels won't try to feed on them or dig them up. Now for my new growers, when growing potatoes, you want to harvest your potatoes once you've noticed that the foliage has died off. These are also determinate potatoes in this raised bed. And these were also planted in my March video. And what you're looking at here is 2 different varieties of dwarf curly kale. And right over here, the tall plant is the cabbage plant that I took the head off of, and it never got a chance to finish because it bolted. And now I have plenty of cabbage seeds, and these are already acclimated to the weather and soil. So next year, these are the seeds that I'll be using in my raised beds. And over here, these are 2 of my pepper plants that I overwintered last year. And as you can see, they've already started producing peppers. And this is one of the new ones. And this is my mother strawberry plant that I get all of my runners from. And I have another dwarf curly kale here. Now over here in this raised bed, these are all Georgia Southern collards. Now these will be removed probably in about 30 days, and I'll replace them with sweet potato slips. And right here in the back, I have more garlic growing along with strawberries that the squirrels have been munching on. So I'm going to dig those up and remove them where the squirrels can't get to them, because I also have wild strawberries growing that the squirrels and birds feed on also. Now over here I have a premier kale plant growing that I planted in the winter, and it is still producing leaves and it hasn't bolted yet. But due to all the rain that we've been getting lately, we now have what's called powdery mildew. Now there's two fixes for this. If it's really bad and it has spread to all of your plants, you want to get a half and half mixture of milk and water. If it hasn't spread to all of the leaves like the ones you see here, you can simply remove the infected leaves and let the new growth grow. Just like that. And what you're looking at here is a Meyer lemon. And over here in the elevated raised bed, these are all carrots. Some of them are ready to harvest, and some of them are still tiny. Now when growing carrots, you can tell the size of your carrot by simply taking your finger and just rubbing around the stem of the carrot. Even though that plant looks big, the stem is still tiny, so that carrot is going to be tiny. But if you look at the stem here, it's about thick as my finger. It is also starting to look like it wants to flower up top. Now the only thing I don't like about growing carrots is sometimes when you grow them, you have ones that mature faster than the others, and they block sunlight from the little ones. And when pulling them, you take a chance of damaging the little ones. But in this case, I don't have a choice. So what I'm going to do is just wiggle it out like this. Now these are all Corota carrots. They get about 6 inches. But as you can see, this one isn't as big, but it smells super sweet. You have to be careful. Just be gentle with it. That way you don't damage the carrot next to it. Now if it was still cool out, what I would do is just leave them in. But once they start to get thick like that at the top of the stem, they start to flower. So those are the ones that I want removed. That way the others can receive more sunlight. It looks like we have a purple one here, y'all. There's also lemon balm growing here that I didn't plant. So what I'm going to do is get that out of here before it spreads somewhere else. So I'm going to have to cut it without damaging my snap peas. So I'm going to go ahead and finish harvesting my collard leaves. Then I'll take you guys into the corner garden. Now for anyone growing collards, if you've noticed that your collard leaves have turned light green like that, it's simply because of all of the rain we've been having here in Georgia, zone 8A. And what you want to do is go ahead and fertilize your plants with a fertilizer that is high in nitrogen to get them back growing and give them that nice dark green color. Alright y'all, so now we can go to the other side. The only thing that I haven't harvested is the garlic. And you can harvest your garlic by simply pulling it up. That's it. If you want to test to see what size your garlic is, just pull it up. Now they were a little bigger than this from the store, but not much of a big difference. Now, if you dig down and you don't like what you see, you can simply cover it back up and wait until more of the leaves die off. So far we have garlic, carrots, peas, and collards. And over here in the corner, this is a tomato plant that needs to be transplanted into a 5-gallon bucket. Now, anyone that has ever bought one of these, and it looks like one of my branches broke, y'all. This is probably from high winds. What I was explaining to you guys earlier, these always need support, so this doesn't happen. Now, if this happens, what you want to do is simply take them inside, place them on the counter, and they will ripen inside. Or you could cook green tomatoes for those of you that like that. But for anyone that buys a pot like this, just transplant it into a 5-gallon bucket. That way you don't have to water as much. So now we are in the corner garden. We got potatoes. These are all blackberries. And the blackberry plants are growing out of my 5-gallon buckets here. Now these grow best in ground. Just plant them in ground and let them spread down the fence and call it a day. And they will come back each year and produce berries. Now down here, these are my indeterminate russet potatoes in the raised bed. And I'll be doing a potato harvest video this year also to see if my experiment worked over here in the shade. And down here, these are all determinants. Now right in this area, this is my shaded area, and this is more full sun. So right here where my finger is, this is my fence line. That's full sun, and about 15 feet up we have shade. So what I'll be doing is trimming the ends of all of the branches you see here, and you can see where I trimmed it last time, and it grew right back. But the shade works well for plants like peppers. Now these are more of the peppers that I started in the last few videos, but it doesn't work well for my determinate potatoes. As you can see, they don't look so good. Also, the watermelon isn't getting enough sunlight, so it's a chance that I may move it to the main cage where I now have full sun because the neighbor cut down the big pine tree. And over here in the 20-gallon, this is a cucumber. Same thing here, too much shade, not enough growth. And here's more of the lemon balm that has spread all over the yard, along with dwarf kale. And these are my other 2 overwintered pepper plants. And more of the lemon balm. So what I'm going to do with this is pull it straight out of the ground. Just like that. If not, this will spread underground as you cut it, and it will pop up all over the yard. And behind the lemon balm, I have a grape vine growing. There's actually 2 over here, y'all. And it is growing up the gate. Now this has only produced grapes once. Last year it didn't do anything. So this year I'm just gonna let it grow. And maybe next year we will get grapes. Now over here in this container, these are potatoes that I didn't plant at all. So maybe they were left there from the last harvest. But the collard green plant that has flowered is done. Now you want to pick these once they swell up like this and you can see the actual shape of the seed, just like beans. So what I'm going to do is simply remove the branches that are finished, like this one. You don't want to snatch this out, especially if you have plants growing beside it. And there's still smaller ones here that aren't done growing, so I'll let them stay. Down here, these are my determinate Abe Lincoln tomatoes. And that's pretty much it for the corner garden this year. And down here in this raised bed, these are cantaloupes. Now there were 3 in here, 1 didn't make it, so I replaced it with one of my extra pepper plants. And once this gets long enough, I'll let it grow up the fence here, and the cantaloupes will just hang down. And with my collard seeds, I simply like to let them hang on my trellis and dry out. Now the only other thing that I didn't mention, y'all, is down here, these are cuttings from my Meyer lemon that need to be separated and planted in their own pots. There's also a pepper over here with more garlic growing, and onions and snap peas out of a 20-gallon. And I also have a blackberry cutting, no, a blueberry cutting. Not sure which variety, but that is a blueberry plant. Now the only other thing that I didn't point out is the Meyer lemon cuttings. There's 4 here, and these all need to be transplanted into their own container. There's also a blueberry cutting growing here, and another pepper with garlic, onions, and a snap pea. Now outside of the main cage, I have a peach tree that blooms every year. Now for anyone that's growing peaches, can someone please tell me what's oozing out of them? Because every year this happens and we don't get any peaches. What can I do to stop this? If anyone knows, please leave a comment. Now I have another peach tree right here. Now this one also has fruit on it, but not as much, simply because it was damaged last year by the pine tree here. A big branch fell off, it broke my apple tree, and it bent this peach tree. But it grew back, and it is still producing fruit. What you're looking at here is a 55-gallon drum where I have my Bartlett pear tree. Now I've had this tree for about 4 years now, and each year it produces more and more fruit. But it is also way too close to the pear tree. Now for anyone that's thinking about growing a fruit tree in a container, you want to make sure that you're planting them and placing them in a space where they will be permanently, because they will grow out the bottom of your containers and latch themselves to the ground. Now I had to learn the hard way when I set my peach tree in these tires. I said I'd only leave it here for a few months and dig it up, and guess what? It didn't budge. So I'm going to cut these in half, remove them, and build a huge container around it. And at the end of the season, I'll also be removing the pear tree here And I'll put it right here in the center where this ladder is by the compost pile. When growing trees, you want them to be spaced at least 20 feet in between each tree. And that's pretty much it for today's video, you guys. Always remember to plan your garden with your health in mind. And healthy soil is the foundation and key to a healthy, productive garden.